Ladies and gentlemen, as we gather here today to conclude our semester-long journey through space, time, and memorandums, SpaceX would like to let you know that another journey has just begun. An endeavor unlike any other, SpaceX has taken the first steps to create not just a world without limits, but a solar system without limits. We are here to extend a warm hand of welcome to all that wish to join us, both financially and spiritually, on becoming an interplanetary species. As we collectively continue to push the limits of our home planet, we at SpaceX have chosen to push the limits of innovation and imagination. What we seek to accomplish will be incredibly challenging, incredibly demanding, yet all the while incredibly rewarding. Yes, I am talking about the colonization of Mars. More specifically, I'm talking about sending humans to Mars within the next 10 years. Habitation on Mars and beyond is no longer just science fiction. It is now a real science in and of itself.
We would first like to discuss some of the many ways that colonizing Mars would add value for investors as well as the everyday person. Musk is in the process of creating a reusable rocket that could change spaceflight forever. These rockets could be compared to cars and airplanes, in that with routine maintenance, they could be launched into space and returned multiple times, saving a huge amount of money. SpaceX successfully launched this rocket to an altitude of 3,280 feet and then returned it safely to the ground where it could be refueled and launched again. Right now, rockets launched by NASA and other space programs are one-time use only. The rockets detach from the main ship, fall into the ocean, and are then recovered. The materials from the boosters are then recycled for other projects. The concept of a one-time use only rocket could be compared to buying an engine for your car with a full tank of gas, driving your car until the gas tank is empty, and then having to buy a new engine because it cannot be refueled. We can all agree that this isn't very practical, but because of rocket technology has yet to make these advancements, the cost of the rocket accounts for the vast majority for the cost of sending a ship to space. The fuel for these rockets accounts for a meager 0.3% of the total cost of a space launch, and Musk estimates a 100-fold cost reduction in spaceflight if the rockets are able to be refueled and used again. For example, a space shuttle launch on average costs $1.5 billion. That would be reduced to $15 million if the rocket were able to be used again. With the quantity of ships that Musk plans to send to Mars, these reusable rockets are the linchpin to making this project successful. Outside of reusable rockets, there's huge opportunity for value creation stemming from the resources that exist on Mars. In order to feasibly colonize the planet, the majority of the resources for building materials will have to be extracted from the planet itself. The sheer cost of transporting building materials to Mars from Earth makes this option completely out of the question. From NASA's recent unmanned trips to Mars, they have found the planet to contain many different minerals and ores that would be needed to build permanent establishments. Aluminum, iron, magnesium, and titanium were found in soil samples collected from Viking 1, Viking 2, Pathfinder, Opportunity, and Spirit rovers. Along with these minerals and ores, ice caps are also present on Mars. These ice caps could be used for a variety of different uses, from physical consumption to a power source to provide energy for buildings. Technology will need to be developed to allow us to mine these resources from the Martian surface. Robots will be used to do the majority of that mining, but this technology has yet to emerge in a reliable way. If Musk and his team are able to create robots that can dependably mine the Martian surface, this technology, just like reusable rockets, is surely to have practical uses here on Earth as well. As an investor, this project presents a lot of risk because of the simple fact that the necessary technology so crucial to the success of the project does not yet exist outside of prototypes. On the other hand, if SpaceX is able to create this technology in a reliable and cost-effective way, the practical uses for it on Earth could mean huge returns.
SpaceX will also acquire lucrative partnerships and contracts through the experience and technology which they gain on their ventures into outer space. These partnerships will include companies such as NASA, as well as many private companies interested in space exploration and travel. As stated by Bob Richards, a contemporary of Elon Musk's in space travel, as a first-order rule, if it needs to be done once, that's a government opportunity. If it needs to be done repetitively, that's a business opportunity. There are plenty of repetitive needs in space already, including the maintenance of space technology such as telescopes, the International Space Station, and satellites. These needs will continue to grow, and SpaceX will be able to help cut costs and make these space trips more affordable. One way in which SpaceX will make money is through contracts with NASA.
Aerospace industry came out with some news yesterday. NASA has granted startup rocket ship company SpaceX part of a major multi-billion-dollar contract that was expected by some to be entirely given to an old-school name in the industry, Boeing. But no, NASA granting $2.6 billion of this $6.8 billion contract to ferry astronauts to the International Space Station to SpaceX, founded by Tesla CEO.
NASA has implemented a new way of contracting with private companies called an incremental model. In this model, companies are rewarded for what is actually achieved on a project instead of being paid a lump sum to take a project from cradle to grave. This is good news for SpaceX because it means they will be able to contract with NASA and focus on their specializations, allowing them to be involved with a wide variety of projects and receive a steady stream of revenue from government ventures. The commercialization of space travel is a second lucrative opportunity for SpaceX. The current innovation in space travel by companies like SpaceX is driving down the cost of going to space. This in turn is making travel for individuals and private companies an achievable and realistic goal.
The task of how we get to and colonize Mars is a multi-stage process. With current technology, the cost of a trip to Mars would exceed $10 billion per person. SpaceX has recently announced an interplanetary transport system that would decrease the cost per person to $200,000, which is the median house value in the U.S. The key to reducing the cost lies within the reusability of the Falcon 9 rocket and the ability to refuel mid-journey. The Falcon 9 is a two-stage rocket that will carry the Dragon spacecraft into orbit. The Dragon spacecraft will detach from the Falcon 9 and continue on to Mars while the Falcon 9 returns to Earth. The return of the Falcon 9 to Earth is made possible through 9 Merlin rocket engines fired at different stages while falling through the atmosphere to disperse heat upon re-entry. The Falcon 9 will relaunch into space to refuel the Dragon spacecraft. Refueling in orbit reduces the cost and size of the required Falcon 9 rocket by 5 to 10 times. The Dragon spacecraft will lack return fuel and must either generate its own supply in orbit or once on Mars. The propellant used is called deep cryomethyl X and has a chemical composition of CH4 and O2. SpaceX estimates that Mars has 5 million cubic kilometers of ice along with 25 trillion metric tons of CO2. CO2 will be harvested from Mars through a process called Sabatier reaction. Hydrogen and carbon dioxide will react at high temperatures to create water and methane. Through the process of electrolysis, we get 2O2 that combined with methane, CH4, creates the necessary propellant to bring the Dragon spacecraft back to Earth. A successful manned mission to Mars will require a specific window of time for departure. The planet trajectories of Mars and Earth reach a favorable distance between the two planets every 26 months. During this preferable time period, it will take only 80 days to reach the red planet. Investors will appreciate Elon Musk's aggressive 4-stage plan that outlines the stage of this interplanetary expenditure. Phase 1 will consist of unmanned reconnaissance of Mars' surface to search for ice deposits and locations for fuel depots. The Red Dragon will be the spacecraft responsible for making sure landings on Mars meet mission requirements. 2018 will be the estimated launch date. Phase 2 will bring necessary cargo to build a full-scale methane fuel depot. The first spacecraft will be dubbed the Heart of Gold. Initial ships will not be able to return until the depot has been completed due to lacking returning fuel. Phase 3 brings the first wave of astronauts to Mars. Supplies will be brought on the first manned Dragon spacecraft to complete the propellant factory and build the first base for inhabitants. With a completed propellant factory, returns to Earth will be possible. Elon Musk has set a timeline for manned missions of 2024. Phase 4 consists of colonizing Mars. With spacecrafts arriving every 26 months, the colonization of Mars will begin. SpaceX plans to launch up to 1,000 ships at a time, with each capable of carrying around 100 residents. With the propellant factory in full production, the interplanetary transport system gear can be sent back to Earth for reuse, which is integral to making the colonization feasible. A fully operational Mars base will allow further exploration of the solar system, and the potential is unlimited.
Hello, my name is Sam Ackles, and I will be discussing the numerous risks associated with this project that both investors and colonists of Mars should be aware of. To keep it simple, I will highlight two significant risks that pose a threat to the success of this project. These two risks deal with living and working on the hostile conditions of Mars and maintaining a healthy state of mind and body during life on Mars. The first important challenge will be living and working on this hostile planet. Exploration via extravehicular activity, or EVA, will be the primary method of navigating Mars. Systems must supply basic biological needs during spacewalks, provide protection from hostile environments, and enable comfort, flexibility, and dexterity to support human exploration and investigation of the Mars surface. Systems will be integrated and tested with vehicle interfaces such as suit ports, using lower pressure, higher oxygen atmospheres for rapid and frequent EVAs with minimum loss of valuable atmospheric gases. The potential effects on human health resulting from surface dust and its safe removal during spacewalks will also need to be thoroughly understood. Missions on Mars will be undertaken utilizing human robotic and autonomous operations to ensure survivability for humans. Pre-emplacing equipment, reusing infrastructure, and relying on robotic capabilities will be used to support humans. Robotic systems can help deploy systems, provide assembly, and support maintenance both when crew are present and during periods of dormancy. They are designed to work with the crew to increase productivity, support EVAs, and are critical to crew safety. Effective resource utilization and surface power usage will be detrimental to longevity on Mars. Next, colonists must be prepared to deal with the surface habitat of Mars. The most important challenge for human pioneering missions is keeping the crew safe for long-duration missions up to 1,100 days. Finally, the last and one of the most important risks I have highlighted is maintaining a healthy body and mind on Mars. Control of the environment and effective management of life support systems will be key to sustaining health for colonists.
It is with the utmost conviction that the colonization of Mars and exploration beyond is humankind's manifest destiny. To summarize the findings of this research venture for our future clients, the three most important aspects to consider are the risks associated with SpaceX operations, what SpaceX can offer to ensure the investors this ambitious plan will succeed, and the residual benefits that will be yielded by the shareholders. The risk of death and bodily harm will be omnipresent from launch to landing. If bodily harm occurs to pioneers, SpaceX's public brand image will be adversely affected. Perhaps the greatest challenge SpaceX faces is the enormous amount of capital this project will need to, quote-unquote, get off the ground. Glaring cost estimates such as the $10 billion alone to pay for the first manned launch indicate the huge capital barriers to success. SpaceX offers assurances to our potential investors by pointing to our proven track record in space travel technology. SpaceX is currently contracted by NASA to supply the International Space Station. Additionally, SpaceX has been contracted to deliver satellites funded by Facebook and other investors to orbit. SpaceX employs some of the world's finest engineers, so developing solutions to the many technological hurdles we face will be a continuous process. SpaceX vows to the investor to ceaselessly pursue innovative solutions to the many problems we will face. We cannot emphasize enough the impact of SpaceX's technology will have upon our future. Surviving and flourishing in the ever-hostile environment that is Mars would be the pinnacle achievement of humankind. Our technology will lead humanity into a new era of commercial space travel, unlocking endless opportunity for human expansion.